Hi, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Indulge podcast with me, Roma Laishram. And in this week's episode, we have someone super special, none other than Stewart Copeland, the former percussionist of the Police, who now is in collaboration with Ricky Kej on some wonderful music. We talked to him about his musical journey and lots more.
Cool. So let's start at the very beginning. I mean, you're renowned across the world, being a percussionist, a drummer in particular. At what point in time in your life did you realize that this is something that you wanted to be, and why did you choose, percussion or drums as your instrument of choice and focus?
When I was 12 years old, I was a skinny runt of the litter. And all of my friends were growing up and becoming men, shaving and hairy chests and everything, but I was late. And eventually I grew to, 6'2", but that happened later. And I was the skinny runt of the litter until I hit a drum for the first time. And that loud volume suddenly was very empowering. And just a couple of creating a rhythm on that turned this skinny 12-year-old into an 800-pound silverback swinging through the trees.
Amazing. So, okay, but where had you first heard of
So it was a power trip, really. It was a power trip for a little kid. But even more importantly, when I joined a band and we played our first gig at the American Embassy Beach Club in Beirut, and I'm playing a James Brown song or something like that, and I look up, and there's a 15-year-old girl, Janet McRoberts, who was way out of my league for a 12-year-old. You can only imagine how it was, how inspiring it was for me to be creating her groove. She's dancing to my beat, and that was another big impetus to do this with my life. Years later, when I was in boarding school, I had that epiphany was to impress, to make a bigger noise. But years later, in boarding school in England, the Christmas service was in Wells Cathedral, and which is a beautiful cathedral, and the 1,000 students, parents, and teachers singing Christmas carols. And I had only one job that night, one song, which was the drummer boy, dum da 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 dum 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 dum. That was my only job that night. But when it came to that moment, okay, this is my moment, and I can feel, the hymns were just very soaring, and hymns. I'm not a religious person, but that music in the church is very moving, and to have that role, to be the helmsman, to be the leader of this musical moment and to bring it in, I just felt the power, the depth of it. And it's more than just impressing girls. This is deeply spiritual and really important. And so the combination on one end of just to be impressive, and on the other end to dig deep into a spiritual beauty, and everything in between those two extremes is why I make music.
Okay. So now, ever since that first experience where you first heard the drums and then you also performed, you've had a chance to become a musician. You've composed for several films. You've been part of amazing bands. How have you chosen, to move your career towards the path that's taken? Was it a conscious choice, or did you just let luck happen, or how did all of this huge thing that we now know Steve Copeland to be? How did it all happen? How did it all begin? Did it start here? Did you plan it all out, or did it just happen on
A lot of it happened in spite of my plans.
Mhm.
My plan was to be a journalist.
Oh, wow.
My plan was to I started a magazine. I worked in the music business. Every job, I was a roadie. I was a tour manager. I did the lights. I've done every job, but every time, just somehow the band pulled me in, and I ended up in the band with my first professional band, Curved Air, in the 70s. I was the tour manager,
Mhm.
and I ended up in the band, which was crossing from behind the camera to in front of the camera. And I guess that was it for being behind the camera. I've been a musician ever since.
Nice. Okay. Now we
And
know
also
that
for the composing part, also, the film composing was an incoming call. Francis Coppola called and said, "Hey, you think you might be any good at doing film music?" And I said, "I don't know." So he flew me over and we talked, and I started making music with his pictures, and it worked. And I got a Golden Globe nomination for my first film score. And I realized that this is really great work, to combine story and music. And for the next 20 years, I did, I don't know, 40, 50 movies, television, games. And so the composition side, which has nothing to do with banging shit, you know, it's a different part of the brain, a different part of creativity. And I discovered, show me a scene and the music flows. Well, eventually, after 20 years, I found the industry, the business, to be too oppressive. The producers, the studio run scared. The directors, I love the directors, but there's this commerce. And so I retired from that. But I do the same job. It's called opera. And it's music telling a story with more emphasis on the music. You know, it's sort of like Bollywood. It's more like that formula where the music and the action and the story are very intertwined. And with opera, it's not, the difference between Bollywood or Broadway and opera is that the first two are all about, still it's commerce. And I don't know about Bollywood, but in Broadway, everyone's running scared. It's about the bottom line. It's got to be a hit or you're screwed. In opera, the business model is to lose money. The money comes from cultural institutions, either very rich Americans or very rich cities in Germany and Italy. And, you know, the funding, it's not about making money. It's about creating something beautiful and important and deep. So that's where I am now. It's a very small world. It's no way to earn a living, but fortunately the police took care of that. And so this is art for art. For 20 years, I was a hired gun, not an artist. I was a craftsman in the service of other people, but I was forced to learn through that employment all these skills, such as orchestra. I had an involuntary education in orchestra, and I learned all these things because I had to, because I was paid to. I was paid for my music education. But now it's art for art's sake, and I don't care that it's not a stadium full of people. I care that I create something beautiful.
Amazing. So, from we know you had your own band at one point called Clark Kent, and then you also had the Police and multiple other bands that you've had, and multiple other collaborations that you've had over the years. You've gone from a rock band to opera to performing music, I mean, creating music for ballets to all kinds of things, and now you're in this whole new music age, and collaborating with people like Ricky Kej and things like that. Has this journey been organic? Has it been something that you thought you would be going on, or have you kind of catered yourself to it?
These transitions have been organic. When I was playing in a rock band, I never thought I would become a film composer. After being a film composer, actually during being a film composer, I got a commission to write my first opera, and I thought, this is what I want to do. And then the same thing with ballet. In fact, ballet came first. It was the fight director of my first film for Francis Coppola. His name was Michael Smuin, and he typically for Francis Coppola, he hired somebody to do his fight scenes who was a ballet director at the San Francisco Ballet. That's how he rolls. He finds talented people and puts them in a new environment, and something cool happens. And so after doing the film, a year later, I hear from Michael Smew, and he says, "Hey, you want to write a ballet for the San Francisco Ballet?" And in my arrogance, in my ignorance, I said, "Sure, no problem." And I had already, because of Francis, begun to have a taste of working with orchestra. And so I wrote that ballet, and the ballet led to an opera. And here we are today. I've written 7 operas now, 3 ballets.
Wow. So the world knows you
Yeah,
now by your name. Everyone knows Steve Copeland. But at some point, you also performed under the name of Clark Kent. So what was that whole phase in your life?
Well, in the beginning of the Police, we started, they were all my songs, really dumb songs with the 3 chords that I knew on a guitar. And the reason we played those songs is because we were a punk band. It was the only scene that was happening. We had to cut our hair, snarl, and play loud, fast music. And I when I talked to Sting and persuaded him to come down to London, I told him I had a band with material. And the miracle is that when I played him recordings of that material, he didn't run away. I've listened to those. I found those recordings. I still have them. And they're coming out with my book that will come out in September. These recordings of me at home doing demos of songs that became police songs. And so some of the songs were too dumb for Sting, who's very intellectual. And I do have some mercy in my heart. I could not make him sing these dumb songs, and because he's so deep. But I do have recordings of him singing. My first hit was "Don't Care." I am the coolest thing that ever hit town. Really, but it was a hit in England, and I have a recording of him singing it, and it's cruel. It's cruel for such a deep talent to be singing that song. The world doesn't want to hear that. But these were songs that didn't fit in the Police because they were too goofy. And Sting in the early days, he would sing them but garble the lyrics. And there was another song that he wrote where the lyrics were too intellectual, so he would garble the lyrics so that no one would realize how deep he is. Eventually, when Andy joined with his harmonic sophistication, that's when Sting's musical ears opened up, and he started to write the songs that are why the Police is what it is. And that early period of the crap songs, some of them became Clark Kent, and I had success with Clark Kent. I played all the instruments myself. I sang, even though as a kid, I never sang in the shower. I never sing in the car. I never even listened to vocals. I'm listening to the riff and the drums. I don't know what the singer's up doing there. And in playing in bands, all I ever see is the back of the singer's head. I couldn't care less about song, but so I ended up singing these songs myself, croaking more like, and by some miracle had a hit. One more thing. When I had that hit and I played Top of the Pops, which is the national British television pop music show every Thursday night. And I played the show. I didn't want to be one guy standing there. I don't like solo. I'm a band guy. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings. I feel most comfortable in a band. So I asked Andy and Sting to pretend to be my band. And so the first time the 3 Blonde Heads were on television, national television, they were in my backing band and Sting was miming to my bass line. Fortunately for me, Clark Kent disappeared without a trace, and the Police destroyed everything in its path.
Is he never coming back? Or we never going to...
I wake up with cold shakes in the middle of the night thinking, what if Clark Kent had gone on? And because I was thinking at the time, I'm having a hit. I don't need these guys. Fortunately, Sting wrote "Can't Stand Losing You," and I thought, I do need guys.
Nice. Now, we know for a fact that the Police, you officially haven't yet disbanded. You'll keep coming back once in a while, and thank God for that. How long do you think are you going to come back to special songs and to mark special anniversaries and things? Now, we've seen you come back twice already. Is this going to keep going on? Because we'd love for it to go on.
I'm an optimist. Mm-hmm. I would say that there's a 0.000000002% chance of it happening again.
Well, good with that.
Why? Because we get along so well now.
Amazing.
We enjoy each other's company. We enjoy what we created together. As soon as we get into a room to try and make music, we are at each other's throats because we are birds of a different feather. Sting is quiet and deep. I am noisy and shallow. And if I'm having a party, having fun, laughing with my goofy friends, my chuckle buddies, Sting walks in and suddenly I'm not funny anymore. If he's having a serene moment of beauty and serenity and calmness, I walk in, the bubble is popped. If I'm carrying a beer, I'm probably going to spill it on him. We are just very different types of people. We love each other like siblings, but musically, he needs a steady platform from his drummer and his rhythm section, a steady platform from which he can leap and soar into the sky. I'm not that. I'm World War III. I am a cacophony. That's what I do. My mission is to burn down the building. His mission is much deeper than that and much more spiritual than that. I'm just here to set the place on fire. And he has to sing his beautiful songs with this bedlam, this cacophony, this disaster area going on over behind his left shoulder. It's just not a good fit anymore. And it's a much better fit when we're just talking at the dinner table and laughing over the dumb things that we did as when we were kids.
Super. And yet you won 7 Grammy Awards. So tell us, how does it feel to be a 7-time winner of the Grammy Awards? And do we have a few more Grammys up your sleeve yet? Are you still going to be giving us great music over the next few years?
Well, I think the Grammys are manna from heaven. And the first 5 were with the Police. The last 2 were with Ricky Kej. And he kind of made that happen. But that's not the purpose of it. The reason, I heard his music, and that just inspired me, and we made this record together. In fact, we're working on another record now. The first record, he sent me some music and said, would you like to collaborate on that? And I heard it, and I said, yes, because it's just the beauty of it, the exotic nature of it, the difference, the uniqueness of it. And then I made a record, which I sent to him. And the record was called The Police Deranged for Orchestra, which came out, it hit the classical charts, it hit the classical crossover chart, number 2 in the classical crossover chart. It was very successful. And Ricky had the idea of, how about we take this beyond borders and we do these songs, not just deranged, but in all of these exotic languages, in Urdu, in Hindu, in Tamil, in Armenian, in Chinese, and Zulu. And he assembled this incredible cast of ethnic singers to make another version of this album that we call Police Beyond Borders. And so this time I sent him an album and he messed with it. The first time he sent me an album and I messed with it. So we're even.
Super. You're in Delhi right now as we speak. So what are you doing in Delhi, and is this part of a larger tour that you're on?
Well, arriving in India after 40 years, the last time I was here, it's a very different place. And I would say, people in India are saying, well, India is a sleeping giant. They were saying that 40 years ago. My observation is that giant is waking up, and in some case has already woken up. It's a bustling, thriving, arriving at New Delhi Airport a few nights ago is very different from arriving at Bombay Airport 40 years ago. And I'd say that this country is waking up. And the other thing as well is that one of my best friends is Kuldeep Singh Dhillon, who's a polo playing friend who lived in England. And he pointed out to me that of the top American companies, the CEO is Indian, in most of them, not just one. To look, hey, look at that. No, all of them. Amazon, all these different companies, as well as the entire nation of England, of Great Britain. And the only thing sleeping about it is that this kind of has happened under the radar. Americans are all wound up about the Chinese and the Russians. It's the Indians who are going to eat our lunch.
Well, we hope not to. But on that very, very promising.
By the way, I would prefer to eat your lunch and your breakfast and your dinner.
We'll happily give it to you. Please,
incredible.
You're always welcome to India, and we'll always give you our lunch and dinner. Like we'll give breakfast. Yeah. Now getting to my last question. What can we see you next in? What are you working on? As I asked you the earlier question, are you on a tour of sorts? Will more people get to see you perform live? What's happening in your life right now?
Well, I am a few things. I'm still playing concerts with Police Deranged for Orchestra, where I show up with the Chicago Symphony. I rehearse for 2 hours, play a show, and in Italy, I just finished a tour in Italy, doing the same thing. And I go to Italy every summer because I just like it there. And looking around here, I think I'm going to have to come to India every winter because I like it here. I had a concept years ago, which was a joke, but is now serious. And the concept is to pick your favorite places in the world. I like Bali. I like Bora Bora. I like to ski in St. Moritz. Okay, you bring out an album which is I left my heart in San Moritz, or Bali of my dream, be a disaster, total failure everywhere in the world, except for Bali. And in Bali, it's going to be a huge hit. And when I go to Bali, I will get a hotel upgrades. The mayor will meet me at the airport, and Bali will belong to me. I don't care about Detroit so much. And so the way this has come true is I really like Italy. So I go to Italy every summer to do something. I'm going to start coming to India because I like it here. I have to do a song, India, which I pick my favorite cities in India, and except that since it's not a Bollywood movie, it won't be a hit here. But I'm going to persevere. I'll be back.
Don't be so sure that Bollywood won't take your song. They might as well. I mean, you're pretty popular all over the country too. But we are looking forward to that amazing song on India, and I can assure you it will be a hit in India if we ever do release it. But I think that's a great way for us to bring this interview to a wrap. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope the concert is amazing and it's a grand success. And I hope you also come to a city like Bangalore sometime soon, because we'd love to.
Yeah, well, I got friends in Bangalore.
Ricky Kej is from Bangalore. So.
I noticed that nobody that I talked to calls it Bengaluru.
They try and make us call it Bengaluru.
You just call it Bangalore.
Ricky calls it Bangalore. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Lovely talking to you.